According to reports, Iranian and U.S. officials have outlined a deal that would bring an immediate halt to military operations, with a formal signing ceremony expected to take place in Switzerland. Iran's Supreme National Security Council says the agreement provides for the immediate and permanent cessation of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon, as well as the lifting of the naval blockade affecting Iran. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Garibabadi says that negotiations on a final settlement will continue over the next 60 days. President Trump welcomed the development, expressing optimism that the agreement would reduce tensions in the region and allow for the reopening of key shipping routes, including the Strait of Hormuz. However, analysts caution that significant questions remain, including whether Israel will fully comply with the agreement, the future of Iran's nuclear program, sanctions relief, and the status of regional armed groups allied with Tehran. Israeli officials have indicated that security operations in parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza may continue, raising concerns about the durability of the proposed ceasefire. The agreement has also sparked a debate within Israel whether political leaders remain divided over its implications for national security and regional stability. Now, to provide insight into the implications of the reported Iran peace deal and its impact on regional and global security, we're joined by Yasser Yagal. He's a former Afghan Army Major, U.S. Army Ranger, and airborne graduate, and author of the forthcoming memoir on Sabotaged. Now, also joining us is Benga Onifade. He's a security and geopolitical affairs analyst with perspectives on the diplomatic and strategic implications of the agreement. Good to have you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Well, let me begin with you, Benga. How would you describe the significance of this moment, and how strategic is it coming just right before this the G7 summit?
Sure. You've got to understand Trump wants Trump wants something, but at the same time, he's acting like as if he means it this time. But you've got to understand also that Israel is a wild card. It's quite difficult because you do have a hard time between not getting another word or in edgeways, because Trump just wants his way and that's it. Even though Israel is actually saying something else, it's quite a difficult one to call at the moment. Trump says they've got a deal which should be signed on Friday. Iran say no, we've got MOUs, a memorandum of understanding. We do not have a deal yet. So Trump wants everything to end. I mean, when I heard the breaking news yesterday, I thought, wow, what a birthday present for Donald Trump, who turned 80 yesterday at the same time. Of course, we've got midterms coming. I keep hammering on this one. We've got the 250th anniversary, United States coming on as well next month. He wants all these things to end. And one more thing is, you got to understand, where did we start from? Where are we? So oil is actually higher than when we than when we started from number one. This is actually a worse deal than we had. And if you look at the 14-point agreement, it's quite laughable actually, because we're worse off than where we started from. It didn't talk about IEA inspection. It didn't talk about Iran not getting. It just said you not get nuclear weapons.
But Benga, the idea, I will get to the complications in just a moment. But because you raised it. The idea of not talking about the IEA was to monitor the uranium enrichment in Iran. But what President Trump wants is an outright removal of that uranium. And the idea of Iran having nuclear weapons is also off the table.
But that's not actually in the deal right now. So he just say, okay, no further enrichment, full stop. Yeah, okay, we can, we could get it off. But Iran said, no, we don't want that. I think maybe in the past, we all learn with history. We say history does not repeat, but it rhymes. I think probably from Libya got rid of it, and we know what happened. Even they got sanctions taken off, but we know what happened after that. And it's actually happened even with Ukraine. They got rid of it for the sanctions removed. And then again, we are at war right now. So I think Iran is probably learning from these complications of the past, or the history which has repeated itself in the past. And they said, no, we want reassurance. And these guys are quite stubborn in the way. They know what they want. I mean, President Trump himself said it before. He said, you cannot defeat Iran in negotiation. Yes, you can beat them at war, everything, weapon, keep beating them down, but you cannot defeat them in the negotiation. And it seems like Iran is actually calling the shots right now. President Trump wants something. He wants it off the table. I said, well, there will be reparations, all the way going back to, all the damages that's been done as a result of the war. But again, he's not really getting what he wants. He just wants end to all hostilities. Let's, one thing we need to also understand is, we could have felt it more, but America had to ramp up oil production as a result of this disturbance at the Strait of Hormuz, which is usually getting about 100 tanks a day, now to about 2 or 3. So this is a lot more complicated, but I think, as we will say, I think we will see. That's what I will say at the moment. Right. I don't think there's anything at all. We are quite on the edge, as we say.
All right, let me bring Yasser into the conversation. Yasser, I mean, you're not new to war. You were in Afghanistan serving for the U.S. This agreement is not an end to the war, we understand. It just makes a way for more complex negotiations ahead in the next 60 days. I want to get your reaction to this war so far. Your reading of this agreement and just the entire war in the last 100 days.
Thank you for having me here today. My perspective is not an analytical perspective. My perspective is based on the ground level experience that I have it with the U.S. military strategy for the last 20 years. And from those 20 years, 12 years, I spent in the military ground. So from the war that is going on in Iran, in the Middle East, what I learned from and comparing it with Afghanistan is almost the same, and always American strategy remain the same, and it repeat the same pattern, and the cost and all those things are the same. From the deal just seems like the deal that we had, American and the Taliban had, and do have. The deal seems like the same deal. One claiming one thing, the other part claiming another thing. So if we see the deal, Taliban and American deal, that deal was not even handled, and it's not manageable now. So what I'm seeing from the negotiation and from the deal that we have it right now, and what we're hearing it from the senators in U.S. and also from the two parties that they're talking, they're having two different perspectives about the deal. So from my perspective, that deal will be not, we're gonna see the time will always be good judgment, but as I see it, the deal looks like the same deal that we had it in 2020 between Taliban and US.
And in that context of how you framed it, that this deal looks like I'm staying with you, Yasser, that this deal looks like the same one that the US had with the Taliban. And my mind goes back to, just the fact that you were there for 20 years. The US was in Afghanistan for 20 years, and we saw how the Taliban was, able to quickly take over, topple power in Afghanistan. And the same question is now being raised about Iran. Yes, there was an overthrow of government, but again, with the son of the Ayatollah, people are wondering what exactly did the US accomplish in Iran? And I'm asking you that question just by military experience.
So far, what I'm looking and seeing, America, I don't think they have accomplished anything meaningful so far, and what they were fighting for, that is not accomplished, and it's even getting harder to accomplish it right now. The deal was they were thinking the war is going to go for a couple of weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and the war is going for months now. So from the war in Iran, I don't see any accomplishment by America, what I'm looking at it right now. And I believe the deal that they're doing it right now, it is from the weak point right now.
Bega, let me bring you back into the conversation. Just in the line of the question I was asking Yasser, in Iran, this is not been framed as, or this agreement has been framed as victory for Tehran and a defeat for Washington. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I mean, for Iran, I think for America, it's about power and at the same time escape. They don't want to get in a long or in another prolonged war, which they had with Afghanistan, and President Obama had to get them out as a promise. Now we've got Iran. We have to get out. It's causing inflation at home. And for Iran, it represents survival. So, we've got months of military pressure from the United States and Israel, but the Iranian government, they remain intact. You killed some of the heads, you replace it with some stronger heads. So I don't think they've actually gone anywhere at all. And we're looking at the 14 points agenda. I think the key thing that sticks out is there's no further enrichment. So you've got enrichment, but there's no further one. I think one of the things that dragged this war on and on was the fact that they said, we're going to take this already existing uranium that you've got, we will give it to a neutral authority. Russia even obliged to say, you know what, we'll take it from you on your behalf. We're a neutral authority in here. But Iran said, no, we're not doing that. But so again, if you think of America, they've actually taken 2 good steps forward, but it's actually taking them about 3-4 steps further back. I mean, they spent a lot of money, lives have been lost. Now they will be paying reparations, which they've always been doing. So if you actually compare this deal compared to what Obama actually had a better deal, unfortunately, because there was no lives lost. We had all peace agreements and everyone, So it's just, unfortunately, it's very difficult to actually praise President Trump for this war. And then you got Israel, who had an incursion with Lebanon. Now they're going to have a permanent presence. So, this is actually stemming, and it's actually getting the entire Middle East into a wider tipping point, into a constant state of war, which we did not have before this entire incursion about 108 days ago. So unfortunately, I can't really call it a win, but I think it's a win for Washington, because at the end of the day, we get our boys back home safe and secure. But it's not, we can't really call it the end of the progress, end of the process, because we still have we still have them stationed right at the Middle East, and until that happens, we can't say it's an end to the war.
All right, I will take a break now, and when we return, I would like to raise that question, or what you talked about the state of the broader Middle East with Yasser, since he spent a long time there. We'll take a break now and return in just a moment. Stay with us, everyone.
Station with the best news bulletin as of today.
About the proposed or the peace deal between Iran and the U.S., which will be signed in Switzerland by Friday. President Trump has said he might likely be there for the signing. But questions remain about key proposals in that deal and if it will fall through. Let's not also forget that Israel also poses a problem. It says it will not leave Lebanon. It doesn't see that deal as binding on its country. I'm still joined by Yasser Yagal, who was an Army Major in Afghan, U.S. Army Major in Afghan, and then Global Affairs Analyst Gbenga Onifade. Thank you both for staying with us.
Thank you.
So, Yasser, before we get to the stability of the Middle East, I wanted to ask you what hurdles you see ahead of this agreement, especially with one of President Trump's red line being that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons.
With the institution, what they're saying, most of the time, what I see, they are not I'm not confidential that what they're saying, they're gonna stay committed to it, and always all those deals or the conflicts, whatever happening, the cost of those deals will be the people and the military families who is fighting on those wars and battles. And institutions, they does not agree when they fail, even though they fail in their strategy, and they does not accept that strategy. If we look back to Afghanistan, in Afghanistan, we were 20 years, we were partner, we worked together, we fight together, we had we built very good relationship based on the decision that the decision maker decided to stay in Afghanistan. for 20 years. We build life around it, and after 20 years, everything disappears. Who was affected? The general public, the people who were living there. So for Middle East, I does not see America will change anything. The strategy will be changed, just like in Afghanistan after a couple of years, and what will be affected, just the people of the ground. So I don't see any kind of positive thing from those deals.
And Israel has said, yes, I'm staying with you still. Israel has said it will stay or it will keep its operations or continue its operations in Lebanon. It doesn't see this deal as binding on it, even though all other parties have said, look, this includes ending hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah. In terms of the wider regional stability, that's the Middle East, where does that leave things now, especially with the latest statement coming from Israel?
Yeah, I see that statement as well. Israel is not committed to be binded with this agreement completely. They're holding them separate from that deal, and that's scaring me more because the war was started because of Israel, and America was dragged to that war by Israel. Now the deal is done, but Israelis are not binded to that deal. What I'm seeing. That deal is already not a deal. That's what I am seeing it from my perspective, and it may not stay longer.
Benga, it would seem as though Israel wants its own deal, with Lebanon, because it feels like though Israel has some key proposals it would like to, at least sort of put in that deal that it has not been given a chance to. Is that your reading of it? And if Israel doesn't stop striking Hezbollah, where does that leave this agreement?
Great question. So yes, will Israel back down or will they keep stirring the pot? Yesterday's adventure, I think it did cause Trump to agree that Israel will withdraw from Lebanon because he wants them to withdraw. So we'll see how it unfolds. But I think the key thing is it depends on how desperate Israel will. It depends on how desperate Israel will do what they say they will do. We all know, there are no red lines as far as they're concerned. It's a cautious optimism, but we also know that U.S. have the leverage to force Israel to agree to a deal. But the key question is, will Trump have the will? Because we know he's actually quite susceptible to Israel weakness, and despite the independence of each country here, I think the key thing is, can Trump force Israel? I think there was a leak at some point. Don't know how true it is. 3 weeks ago, where it was announced that President Trump was actually blabbing away at President Netanyahu, telling him, "Look, without me, this would not happen. You've got to be able to force your hand down to a deal." But if you can't cut the supplies of the weapon, Israel said they can't go it alone, and I think that's one of the key things. Iran does not want their arms to be cut down. Their strength. They're the big brother of the Middle East. We can see the softness of the tone with President Trump right now. But Israel is a key player. If President Trump can force them to a deal, I think we probably would agree. But we've got to understand, this is a 60-day memorandum of understanding, or MOU, ceasefire, whichever way you want to see it as. But at the same time, the president just wants a deal. He wants to stop. You could actually see, if you don't mind me taking you away a little bit, to the World Cup. People have been asking, why is President Trump not there? He has a lot on his table. He wants to get this down. And he did say, look, once we get this over and done with, you'll probably start seeing more of me. So if you can force Israel's hand, I think that would happen. And again, going back to the previous question you did ask, if Iran is a stronger position or a weaker position. Yes, they had a deal last week, which was announced or preemptively, but Iran just went and struck Israel again. Israel did not have to fire back, which as a result of President Trump, because Iran said, as long as Israel keeps firing Lebanon, we will keep firing, and there's no deal. So
Benga, I want to quickly butt in, because I have about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I want to ask, because I want to give Yasser the final question, but I also wanted to quickly get your reaction in like 30 seconds or a minute to the impact this will have on the energy markets. I know that's your area. How quickly will things return to normal in terms of prices?
Sure. I mean, oil is still higher than where we started from. As a result of that, oil loves this announcement and it started catering. It catered today. We've seen about 10% drop in the price of oil over the last week and today. So oil loves this kind of good prices, cheaper oil for the long term. It's great. And I think the silent partner here, which we're not talking about, is China. Pakistan keeps getting all the good news, but China is one of the key players there. It's a positioned way for President Trump to silence China. But once this war is over, Iran is back to supplying China, and I think we're probably back to where we are. Oil is probably going to go down. We expect inflation. Unfortunately, it's been creeping up back now, which is going to, it's going to spread to the rest of the world. But over time, it should cool, and that's where I expect it to be. But do we really have the deal this time? It's cautious optimism, which is where we all are.
So yes, a final question. This deal has a lot of red lines. People are wondering if things could return to hostilities if there is no final agreement in the coming days.
If there is no final agreement in the final days, the situation will stay the same, and probably it's still in the manageable phase right now. It probably get out of the manageable phase, and probably nobody will be able to manage it. So hopefully this will be a deal, and it will reach a peace. At least it is a deal. But what I see in the past, deals are always like people or states taking deal from their political position, not from the reality of the ground level information. If the governments take the ground level information seriously and do the deals based on those information, the deal will stay longer. If they just follow their optimistic political position and does not look at the regional characters and leaders' perspective about the region and the war, they probably not be able to achieve anything from deals like that, like this.
Yes, I wish I could discuss with you what could become of the state of the U.S. bases in that region, but my time is up. I'm guessing another conversation we could talk about that. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Asir Yagal, who is a former Afghan Army major, a U.S. Army Ranger and airborne graduate, and author of the forthcoming memoir on Sabotaged. Thank you so much for joining us, and also Benga Onifade, security and geopolitical affairs analyst. Pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
But that's it on World Now. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching.